What's going on, everybody? CODI here with another video, and in this one I'm going to rank every piece of media that I got through in January 2026. The amount of media here, 36 entries, is ridiculous, and it's also pretty inflated. This may come as a shock to some of you, but I've been playing Punishing Gray Raven and thoroughly enjoying my time with it. However, the reading guide I've been using mentioned events and festival events. I didn't know how to play them, so I just skipped them, all of them, until I did find out how to play them, because for some bizarre, twisted, sadistic, fucked up reason, the events are tucked away in the menu away from literally all of the other content in the game. As a result, I binged all of the events, optional and mandatory, all at once, back to back. So yeah, there's a lot of those on here, and I'm gonna breeze through them because I'm behind on videos as is. I'm on a time crunch writing this at 6 o'clock in the morning, a day before I go back to work. I work night shift, so that's why my sleep schedule is as awesome as it is, but I digress. Let's just do the thing. And also, my opinion literally changed. I swapped my top 2 placements, so we'll talk about that when we get there. But we have a very not small amount to talk about first, so let's do that. Also, this is not in the script. I'm sick the day I'm recording this, so if it sounds different than usual, I apologize in advance. The worst piece of media that I got through this month is Punishing Gray Raven Event Joint Warfare, which I finished in 4 minutes. That's why it's here. Genuinely, I shouldn't count this, obviously, but it is one of the Punishing Gray Raven events, that's for sure. 5 out of 10. Right above that, shockingly, at 35, I have Punishing Gray Raven event Micawberism Cloisters, which I finished in 3 minutes. However, this one has Nanami and Martin in it, which is genuinely just such a fantastic dynamic to watch unfold. This event could have been an hour-long staring competition between the two, and I would still refuse to put it at the bottom of the list. 5 out of 10. Next up, moving away from PGR, I'm just kidding. At 34, we have Punishing Gray Raven Event, Eternal Throne. Again, it's super short, 5 out of 10. Next up, taking the crowd by storm at 33, I have Punishing Gray Raven Event, Babel Tower. 5.5 out of 10. At 32, I have Punishing Gray Raven Festival Event. Ooh, Ring in the New Year. Nanami makes a Katy Perry reference saying, "Baby, you're a firework." 5.5, moving on. Onwards to 31, surprisingly, we have Punishing Gray Raven Event-Path of Stars, which was a cool little world-building event making Earth feel a little bit more lived in. 6 out of 10. We've made it, ladies, lads, and those in between, to the incredible peak top 30. Starting us off strong is Punishing Gray Raven Event, KI.GAL Archives. Cool stuff here. I mean, we got to see some of the classified documents of the Purifying Force, which was neat, all of which having to do with Roland, a really solid character that we'll get more into later on in the video, and also in the next video, weirdly enough. 6.5 out of 10. And now, okay, genuinely, we're out of Punishing Gray Raven here for just a second. At 29, I have 5 Hearts Under One Roof, a series I played at a very dear friend of mine's house when I went back to the state I was born and raised in for my granddad's funeral, and this served as a pretty fun distraction. Ironically, obviously, but I did enjoy it. A month later, writing the script, I can say Ming Ming is the GOAT, Gran was pretty dope, and the other 3 were also there, and the protagonist too. Yeah, I really don't have that much to say. I did actually consider buying the game for myself when I got back home to see all the routes, but the price tag scared me away. 6.5 out of 10. Fear not, though, we are back to a slew of Punishing Gray Raven. At 28, I have PGR Festival Event Sea of Stars. Perfectly serviceable, good event, just a cute little thing to add on to the characters. There's a few things sprinkled throughout. 7 out of 10. For 27, we have our first non-event content to talk about in PGR, and I also have, no notes for that, and that is Punishing Gray Raven Interlude, Chrome Glory. And again, I don't have much notes. I find Chrome to be a perfectly fine character in PGR, but I think he just works so much better as a side character as opposed to a focus character. 7 out of 10. At 26, we have Punishing Gray Raven Event, Abyssal Melody, the last event I had to read at the time of the binge. The art looks so fucking cool. There was a dude named Ryan in it as well. Shout out Ryan, the homie. But seriously, this was basically an epilogue for Chapter 15, and that's neat. The final monologue of Lamia here was also pretty good, 7 out of 10. Moving on to 25, we have Punishing Gray Raven Event Venus Skit, which is a tale of 2 halves, where Nanami is basically pulling an Umineko being meta creating a game board about swimsuits, allowing the devs to showcase swimsuits, obviously. But then the second half was more focused on the Ascendants and served as a prologue to the Grand Blue Extra story, which was cool to see, genuinely, 7 out of 10. Man, I really don't have enough preposition, leading to the next segments. Anyways, rocking up to the 24th spot, we have Punishing Gray Raven Festival Event, Night on Christmas. And this was super wholesome. It's basically telling the story about the Gray Raven set up this little Christmas event for Liv, and it's just genuinely feel good and great. And now, depressing from the perspective of someone who's read Chapter 17, but I gotta wait to glaze that for the February video, a tragedy. Anywho, this was a fun, lighthearted read, much needed for a story like PGR, 7 out of 10. At 23, we have Punishing Gray Raven Event, Poisson d'Evero, which I'm pretty sure is just April Fool's, but it was fun. Incredibly common W for Vera, and the little Silica moment at the end was genuinely just super fucking funny. Comment on the Vera thing. This isn't in the script, but this is actually when you're supposed to meet Vera for the first time in the story, which I find just super hilarious. 7 out of 10. At 22, once again stepping away from PGR in the last part of the script I'll be writing now. We have a movie? Hold up. A real movie. The Rip. Which was fine. It's not the kind of movie I like in general, where I prefer romance or comedies or shockingly rom-coms. I know, surprising stuff. But for what it was fine. Unfortunately, I Redu Mi Neko no Naku Koro ni, you know how that goes, 7 out of 10. At 21, I'm going with Punishing Grey Raven Event, Farewell to the Past Year. Despite the name of the event, the story here is actually about a New Year celebration. I never would have thought, 7.5 out of 10. Moving into the illustrious top 20, we shockingly have another Punishing Grey Raven event, Wendigo, giving us some more insight on Aria, and we actually had some good complex content for Liv, where she essentially questions whether or not we are the good guys in all of this, and that was cool to see. 7.5 out of 10. And at 19, we have literally the same thing, pretty much. Punishing Grey Raven event, Elegy of Nightmare, which is a PGR event where we got more Aria content, but we get rid of the Liv complexity and showcase more about Aria herself, having to do a lot with allusions to Sleeping Beauty, which was pretty neat. 7.5 out of 10. 18, I have Punishing Grey Raven Festival event, Summer Pockets, which gave free swimsuit skins to Liv and Lee, or if not, it was certainly like an event in which they were available to buy, or you could get them. I don't know how it worked. It was a game in a game, an event, and that was fun. And Nanami noting that the beach episode happens at episode 7 or 8 is an anime, that's so peak, 7.5 out of 10. At 17, I have Punishing Grey Raven Festival event, Endless Summer Blue, which is a weird one that I actually do want to talk about a little bit finally, where Endless Summer Blue to me was actually really good. Having the Commandant and Lucia dynamic be expanded on a bit was cool, and having this fairy tale backdrop was also cool. But it was also an ad. Like, genuinely, it was well written, and there was clearly thought put into making this a good event. It's one of the better event stories in PGR as of yet, but it also felt like an ad, where the only reason, and I mean the only reason that this is here is to sell the Lucia skin, which is a really cool skin, but also that particular aspect really turned me away from this event. It's still good, but there is a bit of a stain on it as a result for me, 7.5 out of 10. Moving on to the top 16, we have Punishing Grey Raven event Virtual Horizon, which was a simple concept executed well and didn't overstay its welcome nor come across as an ad. It was essentially an in-universe explanation for why units get stronger pulling dupes in the gacha, 8 out of 10. At 15, I have Punishing Grey Raven. Wait for it. Interlude. This time being Wanshi Hypnos, which really endeared me to Wanshi very quickly. His lethargic attitude was fun, but the deeper layer of nuance and complexity was really cool to see. 8 out of 10. For 14, I had the best Punishing Grey Raven event for me, Legend of the Executor. This shit was so funny. Basically, just take PGR characters and force them to play an RPG for 39 fucking stages, by the way, but it was hilarious. I didn't care about it being long. We had Vera's common Vera-ism at the start, Vera complaining about the plot being boring because it's a generic isekai at the start. Karenina talking about how this team doesn't know what's happening because they just skipped the entire story. We got Lucia, who forced me to uninstall the game for being a transphobe, claiming a man can't become a goddess. Come on, Lucia, get with the times. We later get the reveal that Celica is the goddess, tying us back to the fucking April Fool's event of all things. We got Vera asking if the Grey Raven Commandant wants her to, quote, show you my female side later. This event has literally zero impact on the story itself, but it was genuinely so much fun. Definitely recommended 8 out of 10. And we're done with the PGR events, thank God. At number 13, we have Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, Geumho Station Arc. This is from the web novel where ORV and I have an odd relationship. I love the series on a conceptual level. I think it's wonderful, and knowing that the manga would be easier to get through, I started there. Despite that, I, in effect, dropped the series after around chapter 100 or so. Not because it was bad or anything close, I just had other priorities. So I decided I would just read the web novel and get to it when I get to it, which is how I'm taking it now, one arc at a time, whenever I feel like reading it. Hyunsung is a mostly fine presence. I like Gil Young's dynamic with Dokcha a good bit. Sangha is mostly okay, but she's fun. Really, the two standouts are Hiwan and Dokcha himself. Although, full disclosure, the disparity between Hiwan and Dokcha is not particularly large up to this point in the web novel. Hiwan is about on par with Dokcha, actually, in my estimation. That being said, despite being fairly far removed from the manga at this point, I can say that the web novel is significantly more brutal and tonally feels quite different. Where the manga has a much lighter tone throughout, and the web novel here just doesn't. The post on display here is so serious that it hardly feels like there's any time to breathe. 8 out of 10. Onwards to number 12, I have Punishing Grey Raven, Interlude Vera Garnet. Straight up, I think this one was worse than the Rosen Interlude, but it was still really good. We get to see more of Vera being this martyr figure, gathering the hatred towards herself to keep the people from finding out the truth about recalling. We got the legend of Lloyd in this interlude, and seeing Vera be forced to play the role of Executioner is both fascinating and heartbreaking when paired with the general public's outlook on Vera. It's a good interlude for sure, but it does unfortunately pale in comparison to how incredible her original interlude was, despite still having one standout moment to me when she monologues, "That's good, I'm no hero, and never will I be." 8 out of 10. Just shy of the top 10 at number 11, I have a really bizarre watch. It's Such a Beautiful Day. First things first, holy hell was this impossible to find, but anyways, It's Such a Beautiful Day is a very artistic depiction of existentialism. I particularly liked Bill's You Are Forgiven towards the end of the film, and being able to watch it now is really cool. This is a film I watched back in middle slash maybe high school. Either way, it was definitely different watching it back now, but a unique experience, if nothing else. 8 out of 10. Finally, we're at the top 10, and we're going to knock out some more PGR. We have Punishing Gray Raven, Selena, Tempest, Interlude, which was really fucking sad, as most interludes tend to be. We had multiple allusions to classical plays and works here, including Project Moon Brainrot, naturally, with the allusions to the likes of Faust, Don Quixote, and Hellscream. We get the narration. She saw stars, numerous stars in the sky at the end, which was horrifyingly beautiful. And getting to see the build up to the state that we see her in when we get to her in the main narrative for the first time was genuinely interesting. 8.5 out of 10. We're wrapping up the PGR interludes of the month. At number 9, I have Punishing Gray Raven, number 21 interlude, which for me was the best interlude of the month. Again, classic PGR depression here, but also we got a glimpse into the early dynamics between 21 and Vera, which was really cool to see. This interlude gave us a lot, from the harsh child experimentation of constructs. We saw how insane those experiments were for 21 in particular, with her danger kill scene. And we see Vera rescue the poor girl. 21 asks Vera if parents love their children, only for Vera to bark about how freeing it is to not define yourself, that only fools would do such a thing, and she has a direct vitriol towards those fools. Seeing 21 then define Vera as an angel was hilarious, given Vera's own disposition. Overall, it was a very, very good interlude. No, not the best in the series. I think I have it like number 4, maybe? 8.5 out of 10. At number 8, we're sticking with PGR for a few more spots, finally getting to a main chapter, Punishing Gray Raven, Chapter 14, Imprisoned Sight. I think it was interesting to do a non-Gray Raven chapter. I found that idea to be very bold and interesting, at least for the bulk of the chapter, considering we did actually get them later on. But, like, for the first at least third of the chapter, there was no Gray Ravens, which was really cool. We got introductions to Cinderella and Vonnegut, who are fine for now. But what really puts this chapter here is the hidden side, because we got a lot of Alpha content, including her killing Gabriel, and that's why she's the GOAT for real. I really like Alpha's reunion with Lucia, saying, "You used to be completely ignorant, living blissfully in paradise, but now you're on the starting point," which vastly contrasts to previous "you know nothing," showing a growing respect from Alpha. Overall, I think the chapter was a small step back from the 11 to 13 stretch, but that's more because the 11-13 stretch was as incredible as it was, rather than this chapter being bad. 8.5 out of 10. At number 7, we have Punishing Gray Raven, Extra Story 04, Echo Aria. Hans is an asshole. That's my first note. And my second note is that Vanessa is also an asshole. Okay, but for real, the story of the village and the themes of life and death are executed very well. The tone is incredibly depressing for the first batch of the story, who would have thought? Essentially, this village is going to be wiped out by the punishing virus. Babylonia sends soldiers down to evacuate the village before they, for all intents and purposes, nuke the place. The villagers counter them, saying they will not leave the place, this is their home, and that Babylonia is no salvation, it's just a quicker road to an already unavoidable death. Also, we get some cool live foreshadowing with If Only I Could Bear Some of Their Agony. Put a pin in it, I'll gush about it in the February video. I loved the siren fight, shit felt like a whole-ass Souls boss. Going back to Liv, though, she was the star of the hidden story. She has her moment of, overall, I think every member of the Grey Ravens is truly wonderful, which was super wholesome, and she also got to stick it to that absolute raging bitch Vanessa, who is super unlikable, but like in a Kikyo Kushida way, where, don't get it twisted, Vanessa is a complete and utter scumbag. However, it is so fun watching her fail, so I can't bring myself to entirely hate her, as much as I would hate somebody like Amy from the House and Fata Morgana, for example, who has literally 0 redeeming features, actual waste of code in that visual novel. 8.5 out of 10. Now number 6, finishing out the main Punishing Gray Raven chapters, we have Chapter 15, The Last Spark, which takes place in fucking Atlantis, by the way, with Vera content to boot. It doesn't get more peak than that, ladies and gentlemen. I thought it was super cool seeing the story of Atlantis, this 0-point reactor that wasn't the direct cause of the virus, but studied the virus in its infancy. Learning that the 0-point reactor that did lead to the virus went up in flames when Hell was released onto the world was cool. We got the Lamia boss fight between her and Vera, which was also very cool to see, and we flip over to Lamia's backstory in the hidden side, which was really well executed. Like anything else at this point in PGR, the name of the game is Depression, and it was a really depressing chapter. 8.5 out of 10. Gonna try to speedrun these next season, since it's not really what I would talk about on the channel. At number 5, I have The Good Place Season 2, a live-action scripted TV show. Who am I, and what did I do with Can't Overdo It? But yeah, no, seriously, I absolutely adore The Good Place. It's my favorite scripted live-action TV show. It's also like one of the only ones I've watched. And on a whim, I decided to give it a rewatch and force Horizon to do the same as well. Season 2 is pretty consistent throughout, but it's not as good as Season 1 for me, although I'm not going to say anything about Season 2 because it's really difficult to discuss without spoiling Season 1, 9 out of 10. And at 4, I have The Good Place Season 1, which I will talk about a little bit more. Essentially, the concept of the show is that our wonderful protagonist, Eleanor Shellstrop, is dead. She meets a Good Place architect named Michael, who explains to her that when people die, they are sent to either the good place or the bad place. For all intents and purposes, it's heaven or hell. She meets her soulmate, Chidiana Gonye, who swears that he will stick by her side no matter what, before revealing to him that she actively does not belong there. There must have been some sort of mistake in the system because Eleanor Shellstrop is a good-for-nothing Arizona trash bag. The story tackles a lot about moral philosophy throughout its entire runtime, but seeing this quite frankly terrible person slowly become better through her relationships with the likes of Chidi, Tahani, and Gianni was really endearing, and the ending of Season 1 is super iconic to me, 9 out of 10. Coming in with the bronze, surprising to me, is Limbus Company Canto 9, The Unsevering. Canto 9 is very bizarre for me, as it's the Canto that feels the least like an actual Limbus Company Canto. Where the likes of Cantos 5 and 6 are definitely about getting the golden bows and progressing the main narrative, but the main bulk of the focus is on the titular characters, Ishmael and Heathcliff. That's true here too for Ryoshu. She does get a lot of focus, but the focus given to other parts of the Canto just outshine her content for me. There was definitely a sense of boss fatigue. The content given to Gregor and Sinclair was genuinely insane, and the reveals that come with the content are mind-blowing. There's also the Distortion Detective crew minus Yuria, which was a big loss, but whatever. And there's also the Faust content at the very end, which was incredible, especially for me. Faust is my favorite character in Limbus Company, so getting any lore drop on her is awesome. There's also the entire aspect of Rian and his resemblance to a certain fixer, but that's that, and this is this. And finally, the aspect of us genuinely just getting to experience this grander narrative that felt really much so like it moved the plot further than the previous cantos did. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but it is a different thing. Despite all of that, Ryoshu's content is unmistakably really good. I think in particular the way that the Canto depicts generational trauma through different types of abuse is really interesting and handled with a lot of tact. It then, in turn, makes the Canto even more depressing to think about how well they depicted the abuse because it very much so gives off the vibe that the writers know what they're talking about through personal experience, and this added meta layer makes the chapter hit just that much harder, 9 out of 10. Now for the top 2, this is coming out a lot later than anticipated, and because of that, I've had a lot of time to marinate on this, so much so that I did swap them like I said I did. So now, what was once my number 1, I have The Greatest Estate Developer, which I read all of in January, and it is a very, very good read. I thought it was super fun all the way throughout. I really like Lloyd and his journey throughout the series is incredible. Shockingly, I actually have Javier as my favorite character in the story, although take that with a grain of salt, where this is very much so a Psyche and Medea type situation, wherein I can really just kind of go either or, it kind of just depends on the day. I also really liked Alicia for her scenes as well as the budding romance between her and Lloyd. So peak. I especially love the scene of Lloyd saving the young Alicia. That is the highest peak in the series for me. It was my favorite individual scene, at least. I also really liked the conclusion of the series as well. Overall, the tone is hilarious throughout, but there is this underlying serious nature of the story as well, depicting genuine growth from both Lloyd and Javier, and it's handled pretty masterfully, 9 out of 10. But at number 1, after giving it more thought, I have the final content in Punishing Gray Raven to discuss, Extra Story 05 Inscription of Labyrinth. Now, in comparison to the rest of PGR content that I got through, this is not even close. This is the best. But picking between this 7-ish hour chapter and the entire story of Greatest Estate Developer was closer, much closer. But let's talk about this, because I think in retrospect, this is the second best content offering in PGR currently up to what I've read, which puts it literally only below chapter 17, which we'll discuss in the next media video, put a pin in it. The vibes in this chapter are genuinely the best in the entirety of PGR from what I've read. They don't succeed in the horror aspects of the chapter, they fucking excel. Having 21 be the focus of this chapter was a stroke of genius because she actively adds to the atmosphere they set up here. The lore drops about the two girls in the photo were incredible. The whole possession aspect of the chapter was handled excellently. The Cerberus trio are all eccentric and very entertaining. The literal horror game part of the chapter with the mission to escape alive was great. The cutscenes, multiple of those were great, particularly the last one with 21. And on the topic of her, I think 21 has the single best character introduction across the series as of now. Her showing in this chapter is arguably the best individual character showing, save for Liv in 17 and maybe Lucia in 12. We also get the aspect of Roland partaking in a small bout of mental trickery and tomfoolery on the hidden side. I genuinely have no notes for this chapter. It's incredible from start to finish. Everything it set out to do it accomplished and then some. We also get the Merciful One content, which I'm a solid 99% sure is Ishmael based on design and me using Ishmael on my main team. Won't discuss too much on her, but I have some theories about her, including that she's probably the strongest in-universe character as of now. That's rhetorical. Please do not answer that question. But anyways, it's a genuinely incredible chapter. 9.5 out of 10. And that's it. That is every single piece of media that I got through in January 2026. This was a long one and a late one. I apologize for that. But I can now tell you what exactly is going to be on the February video. We will have the Arcanite's Prologue and Chapter 1, as well as the A Mujica collab event, the first Hello Charlotte game, I Love Amy, Seasons 4 through 7 of Minecraft Survivor, Punishing Grey Raven, Chapters 16 and 17, as well as the corresponding interludes, Sakura Succubus 10, Shibo Yugi Volume 5, and a manga that finished. We are new at this. But yeah, I feel very sick. But that's the end of the video. I apologize if the sickness sounded through too much, but that's about it. So as always, take care, y'all.